discover how 1,000-year-old Viking secrets revealed heartwarming ways to survive freezing nights. The wind howled like a wild beast outside Sarah's drafty little house in Maplewood. Each gust threatened to knock the thin walls down, as if they were a child's fragile fort made of snowflakes. Inside, the warmth of two sleeping children surrounded her, though Sarah's heart felt the chill of winter's grip. Her breaths came out in soft white puffs, mingling with the day's exhausted sighs. She wasn't just fighting the cold. She was wrestling with drifts of worry about keeping her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, and 10-year-old son, Jack, fed and warm. With 2 jobs and the burden of a house, hope sometimes felt as scarce as gas in the winter. One snowy evening, after a long day at the diner filled with patron complaints and the crackle of burning grease, Sarah stumbled upon a dusty old box in the attic. It was packed tight with memories, but one thing caught her eye: her grandfather's journal. Flipping through yellowed pages, she was instantly whisked away to thrilling tales of Viking resilience, family unity, and communal support. The words spoke of cold winters, but also of the light sparked by togetherness. It was as if her grandfather's spirit filled the room, whispering lessons that had gotten buried under the weight of her daily struggles. As the biting winter crept deeper into their lives, and the town's spirit dimmed, Sarah watched anger erupt among neighbors that had once shared flowers and smiles. Main Street was withering, and everyone felt the squeeze. The old Maplewood grinned and groaned under the glares of new families, newcomers gaping at the plight of struggling residents. She could see the tight lips and furrowed brows, the way folks scowled instead of greeting. It hurt her deeply. A knife of disappointment lodged firmly in her belly. Late one night, everything shifted. The darkness seemed to cradle her, as she decided to host a community gathering in her home. If Viking tales could remind her of resilience, perhaps they could do the same for her neighbors. It would be a night filled with stories, laughter, and maybe some cocoa, warm against the backdrop of winter's cruel bite. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. However, when the day of the gathering arrived, her heart sank as dark clouds rolled in, snow tumbling like angry whispers. It closed in around Maplewood, trapping neighbors in their homes, facing fear and vulnerability. Standing outside, Sarah could feel the snowflakes swirling, echoing her continued hope. She lit a fire in her living room, the flames dancing eagerly, mirroring the flutter of her heart as she recalled grandfather's old yet timeless wisdom. As friends and rivals crowded her space, sipping cocoa, they shared warm stories born out of old friendships. Laughter rang, brightening the night until one voice sharp and cold sliced through. Old enmities flared, and just like that, the room's warmth began to falter. Tension crackled, barely containing the storm brewing within her community. Would Sarah's dream of rebuilding unity be snuffed out by old fears? Standing at the edge of change, she took a deep breath, her heart pounding, ready to reclaim the warmth of community. As the wind howled around them, the interplay of fears and hopes intensified. Would Maplewood fight through this winter, or succumb to its frigid grip? Sarah looked at the simmering faces before her, caught between the past and an uncertain future, ready to fight for the warmth of human connection. Would she emerge a leader, or be lost in the turmoil? The room barely felt large enough to contain the swirling emotions. Sarah's heart thumped loudly in her chest as she sensed the tension rising, weighing heavy in the air like the oppressive winter storm outside. She quickly scanned the faces before her. Some were familiar, others were barely acquaintances. But in this moment, united by cocoa and shared blankets. They were all Maplewood. "Let us not forget why we're here," Sarah called out, trying to project warmth into a growing chill. "My grandfather's journal told me about the Vikings who survived the fiercest winters by banding together. Let us share our own stories today. I want to hear about your happiest winter memories." She hoped her gentle coax would melt the frost spreading across the room like shadows. A few nervous chuckles floated through the air, but it wasn't enough to break the ice. Then Ellie, an elderly woman who had lived in Maplewood longer than anyone could remember, cleared her throat. "I remember the winter of '78, she began, her voice quavering yet powerful. "The snow was so high, it swallowed my car whole. We all gathered at the church. Neighbors brought what they could find. Soup, bread, all of it cooked over a wood fire. We played games and told stories through the long, cold nights." As she spoke, warmth spread through the crowd like the golden glow of a sunrise. Memories emerged, each more vivid than the last, children sledding down hills, couples holding hands while ice skating, and the shared meal of a community facing hardship together. Laughter filled the room, rising above the crackling fire. But just when it seemed the warmth would reclaim its hold, Tom, a newcomer, interjected, his voice laced with skepticism. "That's nice, Ellie, but how does nostalgia fix our problems now?" His words slashed through the warmth, and silence fell like a heavy snowfall, a reminder of the chasm that lay between old residents and newcomers. For a moment, Sarah felt lost. How could she combat the hardened edges of fear and resentment? She took a steadying breath and responded, "You know, Tom, it's not about fixing everything immediately. It's about connection, reminding us of what makes us human. Dreams aren't built in a day." A hesitant murmur rippled through the gathering, some nodding along, others still clutching their skepticism tightly. "Maybe we can help each other," Sarah continued, steeling herself for the weight of vulnerability, "just like the Vikings did. They faced fear together, and so can we." There was a small spark in her chest, igniting the passion she felt for her community. Slowly, one by one, people began to share not only memories, but their burdens too. The story of a lost job, a sick parent, a growing pile of bills. Each revelation became a thread connecting the villagers in their struggles. Those threads began to weave a fabric of understanding, something that hadn't existed just moments before. As courage grew, so did the realization that they didn't have to face the winter alone. Hope began to twinkle in the corners of the room, like the distant stars peeking through winter clouds. But as Sarah watched the warmth envelop the crowd, she sensed apprehension lurking just beneath the surface. Change was brewing, and it wasn't just the storm outside. Would they be able to embrace vulnerability and find strength in unity? Or would the scars of past rivalries hold them back in the darkest moments ahead? Just then, a loud crash jolted everyone from their shared moment. The wind battered against the windows, and the lights flickered ominously. Hearts raced as fear threatened to pull everyone apart again. "What was that?" a voice gasped, dread creeping back. Sarah felt her heart sink. A fresh wave of uncertainty washed over the gathering. Was the bond they had started to build strong enough to weather this storm? Would Maplewood stand united, or would old divides re-emerge with an even fiercer intensity? With everything hanging in the balance, Sarah squared her shoulders. This was truly just the beginning, not just of winter, but of something far more significant. Would they rally together when faced with the real test ahead? The room fell into a heavy silence, the air thick with tension. Everyone turned to the windows, watching the furious snowstorm swirl outside, its howling winds reminding them of the fierce nature beyond those walls. They all felt it, the pulse of uncertainty, the doubt creeping in like frost expanding across glass. "I'll check it out," Tom said, his bravado sparking a flicker of hope. "I can't just sit here." He moved towards the door, but Sarah felt a surge of concern grip her heart. "Wait," she called, stepping forward. "Let us stick together. Whatever's out there can wait. Her voice softened, mixing urgency with reassurance. We've faced storms before, right? Let us face whatever this is together. Several heads nodded at her words, allowing a small strand of strength to weave through them once more. Sarah turned her gaze to Ellie, who sat steady as a rock, an anchor. Ellie, you've lived through storms. What do you think we should do? Ellie's eyes sparkled with wisdom. Sometimes, she said slowly, the best thing to do is to stay put. Share warmth. Each voice matters. If we leave this space now, we could lose what we've just started. Collectively, the group drew in a breath, and the air in the room shifted slightly, the focus on her steadying presence. What stories do you remember when the storm swept through, Ellie? Sarah prompted gently, hoping to reignite that connection they had just begun to build. Oh, many! There was one winter I recall hard as nails. The ice cracked, and the world felt as if it had stopped. But we gathered at the church just like then, she declared, her voice rising with the flicker of excitement. People brought blankets, and my cousin played the fiddle. We made up games, turned every moment into laughter. Laughter rippled through the room, like a warm ember catching fire. It fought against the cold, raised spirits lifting like the snowflakes dancing outside. The tension was still palpable, but now resilience flickered at the edges. Sometimes, Ellie continued, it's not about facing the storm. It's about finding companionship within it. Tom glanced back from the door, uncertainty softening in his expression. Maybe we need to focus on what we can still do in here. Together. His voice, steadier now, broke through the fear. We don't have to solve everything. Just be together. Murmurs of agreement circled the room, and the warmth seemed to win back its space, pushing back against the chill encroaching from the outside. I have a story, said a young voice from the back. It was Mia, the teenager who had been timidly observing. My dad and I once built an igloo together. We made a little fire inside and cooked soup with candles. It was magical. She beamed, and her smile, contagious, lit the room. One by one, people joined in, sharing moments of laughter, creativity, and kinship that felt too distant only moments before. Together, they colored the starkness of the storm outside with memories and stories that glowed like soft candlelight. But as the tales intertwined, the wind howled louder, and a sharp crack of thunder echoed through the room, shaking the foundations in a way that felt deeply unsettling. Sarah's heart raced, but she forced her voice through the noise. What if we use this time to plan? Dream of the springs to come, or how we'll repair when the storm has passed. The room dimmed as everyone considered her words, and the fondness began to morph into resolve. A newfound purpose began to surface, and Sarah sensed the air shift again. Let us share hopes today, not just memories, she encouraged, to lift us through the dark. As enthusiasm began to buzz anew, a sudden change erupted outside. The door rattled violently, seemingly begging to be let in. Fear twisted in Sarah's chest. This wasn't just a storm anymore. Something wasn't right. It was as if the wind carried not just snow, but also secrets, demanding to be unearthed. With every heart beating fast in unison, they had to decide, would they hide away in fear, or would they open the door together to face whatever the storm would reveal? As the door rattled louder, a breathless pause hung in the air. What lies beyond those wooden planks? Would it bind them closer or tear them apart? The door rattled again, this time with an urgency that made everyone flinch. Sarah stepped forward instinctively, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. We can't ignore it, she whispered, though she wasn't sure whether she was speaking to the others or to herself. Tom shifted uneasily, glancing at the windows where snow whipped furiously against the glass. What if it's someone who needs help? Or something worse? Murmurs danced around the room, fear the undertow pulling at their courage. Ellie placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, grounding her. Whatever waits out there, we shoulder it together, she said, her voice steady and calm. Mia, trembling slightly, spoke up. I don't want to open the door. If it's dangerous, what if it's something that could hurt us? Her eyes, wide and worried, searched the faces of her companions for assurance. That's what makes this moment so important, Sarah replied, raising her voice slightly over the reaching wind. We don't have to rush. We can think this through. What's out there is only as scary as we let it be. Taking a deep breath, she faced the door. On the count of 3, we open it together, she declared, the touch of determination wrapping around her words. She met the gaze of each person in the room, feeling their resolve begin to swell. 1, 2, the wind outside shrieked, rattling the door yet again, echoing through the quiet urgency settled in the room. 3. In unison, they yanked the door open. Snow whipped in like a wild beast, swirling into their enclosed space. For a moment, they stood paralyzed, hearts racing as the blizzard encroached. A silhouette, dark against the bright white storm, stumbled into the doorway, half falling into their sanctuary. Help me! A voice cried, raw and desperate. The figure was cloaked in winter gear, snow clinging to them like a shroud. They barely made it through, collapsing against the wall. Sarah lunged forward, concern flooding her. Who are you? She yelled over the roaring wind. The figure struggled to rise, icy fingers clawing at the air. I got separated from my group the storm. It came out of nowhere. The tension in the room shifted again, adrenaline quickly overtaking fear. Tom helped the newcomer to her feet. You're safe here. We're all in this together. But as the stranger's face became visible, they all gasped. It was a woman, her pale skin lined with frost and her eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. The warmth of the room felt like a sanctuary crushed by the chill she'd endured. Thank you, she whispered, tears glistening. I thought I was going to die out there. A sense of camaraderie formed around her, with the group enveloping her in blankets, warm drinks, and shared stories of how they had all ended up in this place at this time. Laughter and soft words filled the space, but as they welcomed her, the wind howled even louder, swirling as if to warn them of troubles yet to come. Just as the warmth began to settle, another crack of thunder shook the room, but this time, it wasn't the weather. There was something heavier outside, a thud, a bump, a threat lurking just beyond the door. Sarah exchanged glances with Tom, questioning whether the door had truly opened them to safety, or if it had unleashed something far more menacing. What else is out there? She thought, a sense of dread creeping in again. They had invited this woman in. What had they unknowingly invited with her? The storm remained fierce, but together they began to realize what was supposed to be a night of hopelessness was turning into a night of revelation. But in the back of her mind, a question nagged at Sarah. Could they really trust their instincts with the shadows lurking in the storm? Would darkness wrap around them again, threatening to extinguish the light they had finally begun to cultivate? As the door creaked ominously behind them, they all waited, breath held, for what would come next. The wind howled as if in protest against the sudden warmth swelling in the small room. Sarah's throat tightened as she stood with Tom, Ellie, and Mia, the newcomer huddled under blankets with grateful but shocked eyes. The laughter and lightness of a moment ago felt fragile, clinging to the air like the steam rising from their mugs. Did you hear that? Mia's voice trembled, breaking the fragile calm. The sound outside pressed heavier against their senses more than just the wind or falling snow. It was out there, something undeniable and potent that made the hairs stand on the back of Sarah's neck. The newcomer, still shivering, leaned closer to the fireplace as if its flames could shield her from whatever lay beyond. I'm Jenna, she said, her voice hoarse, matching the deep shadows circling the room. I was with a group hiking. We were supposed to camp not far from here, but the storm hit so fast. Tom stepped closer, searching Jenna's eyes. You're safe now. We'll figure this out together. But we need to be aware of what we're facing. Jenna nodded, a flicker of warmth shining briefly in her expression. I thought they'd come back for me while I was looking. But the storm had swallowed everything. There was fear in her voice, far deeper than what the storm had wrought. Then, the thud returned louder this time, like a heavy stone falling against wood. The group froze, their eyes instinctively darting toward the door. Did they imagine it? Someone must be out there, Ellie exclaimed, her voice rising in panic. Sarah pressed a hand to her forehead, steeling herself. What if it's one of Jenna's friends? But as thoughts raced in her head, another sound echoed, a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the walls. The lights flickered as if responding to the tension, casting dancing shadows across the faces of the group. They all turned to Tom, who seemed to suddenly stand taller, burdened by the weight of the decision to be made. We can't just leave them out there. Sarah, you can't seriously think if we go out, we have to be careful. Sarah shot back, her heart pounding in her ears. I want to just leave someone to die. We have to help. But we have to be smart about it. Smart? Mia shook her head, her eyes gleaming with fear. We don't know what is really out there. Yet Jenna watched them, her expression shifting as she gathered her breath. I know what it's like out there. I could help guide you. I familiarize myself with those woods. Maybe we should listen to her, Tom said. But we go as a group. No one can be left alone. The tension broke like a wave crashing over them, uncertainty mingling with a flicker of hope. Everyone instinctively moved closer, as if creating a fortress against the unknown. All right, Sarah finally said, her breath feeling shaky but resolute. We'll gear up, head out, and see if we can find your group. But we stick together, no matter what happens. As they prepared to leave, the air grew thick with anxiety and dread. Each person silently prayed for courage. Then, as if voicing a collective thought, Jenna whispered, just remember, storms can bring out the worst, but they can also reveal the strength we didn't know we had together. The winds howled as they gathered coats and scarves. Sarah took one last glance at the door, a mix of determination and uncertainty tightening her chest. There was something waiting for them out there, lurking in the shadows of the storm. As the door swung open, the cold rushed in, and with it came the realization that whatever they faced, it would test them all. Would they emerge with the hope they sought together? Or would the storm strip them of everything they ever believed? With hearts racing and breaths mingling in the biting cold, they stepped into the night. The fierce wind carried their whispered fears away, but the question lingered, what were they about to embrace? The cold hit them like icy fingers against their skin, a stark reminder that they were entering a battle not just against the storm, but against their fears too. As they stepped outside, the howling wind whipped through the trees, making an eerie melody that unnerved even the bravest among them. Stick close, Tom commanded, leading the way with Jenna by his side. Sarah glanced back at Mia and Ellie, their faces pale with apprehension. She could feel the heaviness in the air, a weight that seemed to press down on their shoulders. They had no choice but to move forward. Retreat wasn't an option now. Where do we start looking? Ellie asked, her voice barely audible over the wind. Jenna squinted into the swirling snow. I think we should follow the trail we took earlier. It's buried, but if we remember the landmarks, we can find our way. Tom nodded, determination set in his jaw. Let us find those landmarks. We'll move quickly and quietly. As they trudged through the snow, one step at a time, Sarah could feel her heart racing. Every crack of a branch, every howl of the wind made her jump. It felt like they were being watched, but nothing was out of place. Just the storm and shadows, and maybe something else, lurking in the corners of her vision. Why would they come back for you, Jenna? Mia's voice trembled as she fought against the biting cold. If the storm was that bad? Jenna paused, her features tense. They would have tried to find shelter. The group was strong, but the storm had turned the world upside down so quickly. I thought they'd be behind me. Sarah watched Jenna, the way her brows knitted together. There was something raw in her expression, something that revealed layers of hope being chipped away by panic. They could be lost or hurt, Sarah whispered, catching herself wishing for the impossible. They finally reached a clearing where the trees thinned out. A few broken branches lay scattered across the ground. Jenna pointed toward a large tree. That's it. I remember this one. There's a cave about 100 yards from here. We should check it. They could be taken shelter there. With renewed urgency, they followed Jenna's lead, stepping carefully over snowdrifts. But the deeper they pressed into the woods, the heavier the atmosphere grew. The unsettling sensation of being followed hung over them, as if the shadows had slipped into their midst. Suddenly, a crash echoed through the trees, a deafening sound, like thunder. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. What was that? She gasped, grasping for Tom's arm. Stay back, Tom called. Everyone, stay together. Immediately, they formed a tighter circle, hearts pounding as they scanned the darkness. Another growl rumbled, low and menacing, reverberating through the air. It sounded closer now, as if whatever was out there had taken note of them. Jenna's eyes widened in fear, but she held her ground. We need to keep moving. Should we turn back? Mia's voice quivered, but Sarah could see the determination in Tom's gaze. They were in too deep now. Turning back felt like defeat. We can't split up. Keep moving, Sarah urged, feeling the swell of hope buried beneath a sea of dread. They pushed forward, adrenaline coursing through their veins, the storm howling louder than their worries. Just as they neared the mouth of the cave, the growl erupted again, this time sharper, more urgent, echoing through the grove as if daring them to come closer. What was that? Ellie shouted, her eyes darting around wildly. An unexpected flicker of light glinted off something in the distance, and for a moment, Sarah felt hope mingle with dread. Was someone there? Was it a friend or a foe? Before she could ask Jenna what she thought, a voice sliced through the storm. Help! It came from the cave, desperate and raw, sending a shockwave through Sarah's heart. Did you hear that? She practically screamed, staring into the dark mouth of the cave, where shadows danced menacingly. Go! Tom shouted, and without hesitation, they charged toward the voice. But who or what was waiting for them inside? And could they truly handle what lay ahead? As they approached the cave's entrance, the wind howled like a banshee, sending icy gusts that chilled them to the bone. Each step felt heavy, the fear clinging to Sarah like a second skin. She glanced at Tom. His jaw was set in determination, but even he couldn't hide the flicker of doubt in his eyes. They pushed through the threshold of darkness, the gnawing desperation in the voice urging them onward. Hello? Jenna called, her voice small against the roaring storm. Echoes bounced back, mocking their bravery. The flickering warmth from a small flame flickered just beyond their view, something that hadn't been there moments before, but now felt like a beacon of hope. Help us! The voice cried again, quaking with anguish. Even as Sarah's heart swelled with urgency, a chill crept into her bones. What if they weren't alone? They entered the cave, eyes straining to adjust to the low light. It illuminated a rough-hewn space with walls that felt ancient and alive, the stones glistening with moisture. In the flicker of the flame, movement caught Sarah's eye. A figure huddled against the wall, shivering but alive, hands weakly raised as if pleading for salvation. Come closer! It was a girl maybe no older than Sarah, her face streaked with dirt and tears that mingled with the cold. Are you okay? Jenna rushed forward, her voice filled with urgency. But the girl was shaking, not only from the cold but from something deeper, a terror that resonated with her own fears. They're out there! She gasped, her wide eyes darting toward the cave entrance. They won't stop. Jenna turned, excitement mixing with panic. Who? What are you talking about? In that moment, the shadows shifted again, drawing closer. The growl they'd heard before echoed through the cave, deeper this time, reverberating in a way that set their hearts racing. Sarah could feel her skin crawl. "Stay back," Tom said, raising his arms protectively. "We need to move." Yet the girl shook her head furiously, her voice a mere whisper. "They come for the warmth," she stammered. "They sense the flame. If it's lit, they cannot resist." Sarah glanced at Jenna and Tom, fear flooding her voice. "What do? We can't just let them have her." Tom's eyes flicked between the girl and the entrance, his mind racing. "We have to snuff out the fire. That will lure them away. But we can't leave her," Jenna pleaded, her loyalty tugging at her heart. The girl's breath hitched. "If you put the flame out, they'll come for you instead." But if you stay. With a quick glance, Sarah felt the tension in the air shift. Moments passed like hours, and then it clicked. The growls intensified, rumbling closer, surging into the cave with a ferocity that took their breath away. "We're out of time," Tom shouted, grounding himself, determination bleeding into his voice. The growls grew louder, a cacophony of unease, and before Sarah could react, Tom leaped forward, reaching for the small flame. It flickered nervously as he sought to extinguish it, the shadows outside growing restless and agitated. "Wait! Don't!" the girl cried out, desperation washing over her. Time hung in the balance. They faced a choice. That singular moment could change everything. As the figures emerged from the shadows, a deeper growl echoed through the cave, drowning out their racing thoughts. What would they sacrifice for survival? And could they trust the desperate girl in the face of imminent danger? Tom's fingers brushed the flame, warmth threatening to disappear. The shadows outside the cave writhed like a living thing, growing more unpredictable, clawing at their bravery. Sarah's heart raced. "Tom, please don't!" she cried, her voice cracking with desperation. The girl's horror-stricken eyes pierced through the chaos. "If you put it out, they'll get you. You'll be lost like I am." Time folded in on itself. Just as Tom's hand hovered above the flickering fire, Sarah lunged forward, grabbing his wrist. "Think. We can't let them in here." His eyes narrowed, wrestling with the conflicting emotions. The growls rippled through the darkness, more urgent now, thrumming in their chests like a booming heartbeat. "Then what do?" Tom hissed, frustration rippling through him. "Maybe we can hide," Jenna suggested, looking around wildly. "Somewhere they can't find us." The girl looked at them, sadness pooling in her gaze. "You don't understand. It doesn't matter where you hide. They will sense your fear. They will find you." Panic clawed at Sarah's throat. "What do you mean?" "Fear is their fuel." The girl's voice trembled. "The more frightened you are, the closer they come." Tom steadied his breathing, grasping her words like a lifeline. "We need to stay calm, then. Find a way to distract them. How?" Sarah whispered, dreading the answer. The girl's expression turned grave. "Only if you remain strong. If your hearts burn bright with hope, you can push them away. But you must believe." A flicker of defiance sparked in Tom. "What if we all stay together? If we focus our energy, maybe we can." The growling outside grew closer, full of depth and hunger. Sarah's heart sank. "Hold each other as hands. We need to show them we're not afraid." With a quick inhale, they formed a circle, arms linked tightly. The warmth of their bodies radiated against the cold stone walls. Sarah squeezed Jenna's hand. "We're here. We're not afraid." "Just breathe," Tom added, his voice steady, his face a mask of unwavering resolve. From the entrance, shadows flickered on the walls, a mass of dark figures swirling just beyond the threshold. They had no eyes, yet they were aware, watching, waiting. The growl rumbled ever closer, dark and predatory. It felt like a thick fog rolling in, crushing their spirit. "Please don't let them take us," the girl whimpered, clutching her own arms, drawing inward like a wounded animal. "Believe." The worst part of Sarah insisted. "Just us against them." She could feel every heartbeat, a drum resonating resignation and courage in equal measure. But suddenly, the flame pulsed in response, a steady thrum of warmth defying the shadows. Light spread out like a protective aura, illuminating the cave with a golden glow. "Look!" Jenna breathed, eyes wide as the figures hesitated, the growling diminishing. "They're afraid of it." The girl's expression shifted from hopelessness to cautious optimism. "We have to keep it alive. The warmth will protect us." The shadows writhed in response, twitching as if battling against a hidden force, the growl shifting to a shriek of fearful anguish. Sarah could feel the tide turning, but danger still loomed as they fought to hold their ground. What would it take for them to finally overcome the dark? Could they harness their collective strength against the encroaching shadows, or would the fear claw them back into despair? In that moment of fragile hope, everything else fell away, leaving only the urgent question: how far would they go to survive? As the dark creatures surged forward again, the shadows lunged forward, a wave of darkness crashing against the flickering light of their fire. Sarah's heart pounded in rhythm with the growls outside, each thrum echoing the unyielding urgency filling the cave. She tightened her grip on Jenna's hand, feeling the warmth of their unity pulsing like a heartbeat against the cold. "Stay close," Tom urged, his voice cutting through the chaos. The fire flared with a fierce brightness, as if responding to his command, casting sharp shadows that danced wildly against the cave walls. The girl they had found in the cave, the one who had warned them, her face was pale, fear mingling with admiration as she watched the flame fight back against the encroaching gloom. "It's working," she whispered, eyes wide. But beneath that flicker of hope, Sarah could still see doubt. "It won't last forever, then we must make it last," Sarah said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "Tom, what if we sing? It could remind us of brighter times, and maybe the shadows won't like it." Tom glanced at her, his brow furrowed, but then he nodded, his resolve bolstered. "All right. Everyone, let us sing. It doesn't need to be perfect, just loud enough to keep them away." The three began to hum a simple tune, a melody passed through their childhoods. Sarah focused her energy on the song, squeezing Jenna's hand tighter. The sounds of their voices filled the cave, echoing against the rock, giving them weight. Outside, the shadows halted, the growls weakening to whines that clawed at the edges of silence. "Keep going," Jenna urged, her voice shaking with uncertainty, but she joined in. They sang louder, hearts racing as the warmth from the fire surged in response. Then, the unexpected happened. The shadows twisted, rearing back as if the sound scalded them. A momentary silence stretched, profound yet fragile, giving them a precious second of relief. But it wasn't long before the growls returned, deeper and angrier. The shadows surged forward once more, this time resembling more than just a mass of darkness. Forms flickered at its edges, ghastly shapes looking almost human but twisted in their agony. "What are they?" Tom gasped, backing away. "They look like us." His face paled as realization dawned on him. "Maybe that's it," Sarah breathed. "They were lost once too." The girl spoke up, her voice trembling but gaining strength. "They are the remnants of fear. They fed on despair until they became that what we feel now. Hope burns them away like light to shadows." "But how can we keep that hope alive?" Sarah asked, panic creeping back as dread clawed at her heart. "We have to remember what brought us here," Jenna interjected. "Think of something that made you feel truly alive." It was still a desperate gamble, but Sarah grasped onto the idea. Images flashed in her mind, her family at the beach, the warmth of the sun on her skin, laughter swirling around her. I remember the way my mom would hug me when I cried. It made me feel safe. Yeah, Tom chimed in, his voice finding its footing. And I think of those nights by the fire with friends, the stories we'd tell. It always felt like we were invincible together. The girl's eyes lit up. Keep going. Share your memories. Feel them. They took turns, sharing laughter and tears, evoking memories of love, friendship, and the brightness of life. Each story warmed the air, and the flames danced higher, a beacon against the encroaching shadows. But even as their memories fought valiantly, a shadow broke through the cave's entrance, a vanishing shape on the threshold, hesitant yet drawn to the glow. It was one of them, lost but not entirely broken. Just as the creature paused, ethereal and overwhelming, Sarah's heart sank. What if it can't remember? What if it's too far gone? She whispered, fear clawing at her throat again. The others paused, uncertain, the flames flickering as if sensing the shift in the air. But the fight wasn't over yet. Maybe we can help it remember, Tom whispered, steeling his own heart. But could they truly reach out to the creature lost in darkness? Would they dare to face the embodiment of their deepest fears in a desperate bid to save another? The shadows stirred at the entrance, like a wounded beast, hesitant yet drawn to the fragile light. Sarah felt urgency surge through her veins. This was no longer just about survival, it was about connection. About reaching out, even to those lost beyond recall. Let us not retreat, Sarah urged, her voice rising above the growls. We can help it. It has to remember love too. Tom nodded, determination ignited in his eyes. We need to show it warmth, just like the memories we've shared. It can be healed. With that, they began to speak in unison, their voices rising with the shared urgency to connect. We know you're lost, Jenna called, her hands trembling. But we're here now. You don't have to be afraid. The creature remained still, shrouded in darkness and doubt, but a yearning stirred within the air. The flames flickered, almost as if encouraging them to continue. Do you remember what it's like to feel the warmth of friendship? Tom questioned, stepping closer without fear. To laugh? To love? We can show you the way back. Please come in from the cold. As if battling against an eternal winter, the creature hesitated. Then, at each time it flinched back, Sarah felt the flicker of hope within her strengthen. Don't lose faith, she urged. You were once bright, just like us. In that moment, the shadows shifted again, forming a pitiful image of a person, the features morphed by sorrow, but not gone. It stood, quivering and broken, on the brink of retribution, but longing for light. Help me, the creature rasped, its voice a whisper desperate for connection. The warmth in the cave intensified as the group reached out, hearts sewn together with their shared experiences. You are not alone, Jenna announced, her own heart palpable in her voice. You belong to us. With a collective exhale, they extended their hands toward the creature, a simple gesture loaded with hope and unity. Take our warmth, Sarah entreated, tears shimmering in her eyes. Feel the love you once knew. It's still here. And then, something miraculous happened. The shadows retreated just enough for a glimmer of golden light to seep from within, illuminating the creature's intricate form. It recoiled and then surged forward, caught in the embrace of their compassion. Hope, it breathed, the word a tender droplet that broke through the icy exterior. The flame flickered once more, and they could see the creature more clearly now. What emerged was a silhouette worn but recognizable, a soul battered by turmoil yet lit by the warmth of shared strength. Come, we all deserve a second chance, Tom said softly, his voice unwavering. As that flickering light met the darkness, the shadows began to dissipate, evaporating like morning mist kissed by sunlight. In that cavernous space, the cave transformed, warmth coursed through their ties, knitting together a patchwork of resilience and healing. One by one, the memories flowed freely among them again, joyful laughter, love wound tightly in their hearts, and the warmth of connection igniting a chain reaction of brightness that pulsed through the group. The creature emerged, trembling but now filled with a resolute glimmer. It stepped fully into the golden glow of camaraderie. "Thank you," it breathed. "I thought my light was lost forever." Suddenly, a triumphant silence filled the cavern, the shadows retreating into wisps of nothingness. They had done it together. They had faced what had slithered into their fears, and drawn it back into the embrace of love and belonging. But time was precious, and the storm carried its own weight. Sarah realized they could not linger too long. "We need to get back to the others. Our warmth must spread beyond this cave." As they victoriously stepped back into the snow, they felt the world shift around them. The storm would remain fierce, but it felt less daunting now, as if armed with their newfound connection, they could face it all together. As they reached the opening, clearing past icy branches, the familiar sounds of the wind became a communal cadence, mingling with their laughter, creating a harmony of purpose. The bitter cold that had once wrapped around their hearts deepened into something stronger, kindred spirits united in their journey forward. "From here on, we will build something together," Jenna declared, her voice vibrant as they faced the elements. "It's not just about surviving winter anymore, it's about thriving through it." Emboldened by the fire within them, they moved through the snow, leaving behind shadows of despair. In the days to come, the community of Maplewood wasn't just a place anymore. It became a family woven together with stories and laughter, lightened by love as embrace, thriving even in the harshest winters. As Sarah looked to the horizon brightening under the morning sun, she felt a warmth fill her heart, a promise that spring's return was merely the start of what they could build together. "Let us go home," she said softly, her voice carrying the truth of their journey. And as one, they turned toward each other, ready to face all seasons of life united. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to never miss another heartwarming story that transforms lives. Leave a like now to power the algorithm. Your support means everything. Comment below your thoughts on this journey and how it touched you. Your voice matters. Share this story instantly with at least 5 friends who need an uplifting reminder of unity and connection. Don't wait not even one more second to spread hope.